StrayAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is the biggest lies in professional and career development. So we did personal development lies. Now we're going to do professional and career development because these are they are intertwined in many ways, but the nonsense that maybe some of you have possibly been led to believe when it comes to your professional careers, I'm going to make sure we segment these out so you can understand the difference. So before we get into this, I remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation, Monday motivation messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day, your week, respectively. Text me at my number 305-384-6894. You'll be on my list. And when we start sending those messages out again, you'll be getting them straight to your phone. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. You are a professional. You're an entrepreneur. You're a person who wants to build your business and career up to a higher level. You want to get some help with your personal stuff while you're building your business and career. We don't discriminate between the two. You get personal and professional development there, working directly with me as your coach. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, link down below in the description. Let's get into this and what is going to be the first of a 5-part series, the biggest lies you have been told about professional and career development. Now, as this show here is heavy on professional as well as personal development, and today, and as we move through this 5-part series, as I told you, I'm going to address the biggest lies when it comes to building up your career and building yourself up professionally. This is specifically for those of you who are professional, career-focused, and entrepreneurial-minded individuals. Now, I know that there are many of you who listen to this show, so please listen closely to the things that I'm going to share here, because these lies are just as pernicious and as prevalent as the ones in the personal development side. And these lies here are affecting your career and they're affecting your money-making potentiality, whereas the personal development stuff is affecting who you are as a person, which could be underlying your career and your professional potentiality. So these, we're talking specifically the stuff that happens when you are working, whether you work as a employee in a career, climbing a ladder, or you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you're doing a little bit of both. Let's get right into it. Point number one. Topic, once again, the biggest lies in professional and career development. Number one, climbing the ladder is the only path to success. This one is absolutely a lie. Climbing a ladder is not the only path to success, even though you can become successful by climbing a ladder. I talked about climbing ladders in episode 2672, specifically when I told entrepreneurs to stop doing it. Now, if you work in a corporate structure, you should climb the ladder, because if you plan on staying in that corporate structure, climbing the ladder is a good idea. That's how you move up. That's how you get more responsibility. You get more prestige. You get more recognition, and you're getting paid more money. So if that's your goal, then you should climb the ladder if you're going to work in corporate. Now, if you're going to get out of corporate, or let me back up. If you don't want to climb the ladder in corporate, I suggest you get out. Or if you've been trying to climb the ladder, but for whatever reason, you have been denied access to the next rungs on the ladder. And I work with there are some members of our university right now who have been in this situation, who have decided they want to get out of the game because of the fact that they've been trying to climb the ladder, but they continually get denied when they're trying to step up to the next level. Then get out. All right, if you have been denied, then get out, because you already have seen your ceiling, at least for now. And at the same time, let's remember, maybe things will change in the future, but you ain't got so much future to go before your time's up. Okay, so although it is true that you can climb ladders to get to success, depending on what type of success you are getting to, it is also true that many people choose to not climb ladders. I am an example. I'm one such person. I've done episodes, as I told you, explaining that you don't need to climb a ladder, especially as an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, you shouldn't be climbing anyone's ladder, because you don't have to. Only people who should be climbing ladders are those of you who work in bureaucracies. You work in academia, you work in corporate, you work in the government. You should climb the ladder, because that's how you move up. In other places outside of those bureaucracies, you shouldn't be climbing any ladders, because all you're doing is giving your resources to something that you don't need to give it to. So if you're an entrepreneur, do not climb any ladders. All right, climbing ladders are for people who work in bureaucracies, I just told you that, in which you don't have a choice as to if you are looking to advance. You only have one way of doing it, which is climbing up the ladder. In such a case, again, you got to do what you got to do. Now, if you're not in a bureaucracy, I suggest, or you plan to jump out of one, again, I just mentioned that, then you can ignore any ideas or plans of climbing any ladder to reach any level of success. Great thing about being an entrepreneur, ladies and gentlemen, is that you can go straight to the top of the org chart, without climbing up anything and without meeting anyone else's expectations, regulations, or surpassing their, let's just say, clearing their bars. Let's just put it that way. You go straight to the top of the org chart because you can put yourself in the #1 spot on day one. That's the great thing about being an entrepreneur. Now, at the same time, when you're in the #1 spot, still comes with responsibilities. So you're still responsible for everything. You put yourself in that #1 spot. So there is a trade-off. I want to make sure you are aware of this. So this lie about climbing ladders is really based on what type of career you are looking to have. And since this show is targeted towards entrepreneurs, you should understand why I'm pointing this one out as the first lie you've been told in professional development. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is the biggest lies you've been told in professional development. Point number 2, more education equals more success. Now, this one, again, goes directly to what space are you trying to move yourself up in. If you work in a bureaucracy, if you work in academia, more education does give you a bigger opportunity for success, because the higher your degree, then the bigger the job that you can get. In corporate, this happens as well. I know some people who worked in corporate who told me they were going back to school, or they are already back in school, because if they get a certain degree or they get certain credits or whatever, then they go to a higher level in the chart or a higher income earning potential in what they're doing. So if you're climbing ladders, then this could possibly be true. But again, let me be clear. I am targeting this series towards entrepreneurs, all right, not towards employees. So if you're new around here, you may not be familiar with my rampant and consistent and warranted trashing of the American educational system. So if you have not heard me trashing the American educational system, let me let you know right now that I have and will continue to trash the American educational system. And I'll let you know here, in case you never heard me say it before, the American educational system is trash. It's based on indoctrination. It is not actually educating. The definition of education is to bring out from within. It is not to put in. Indoctrination is when you're putting ideas in people. Education is when you're bringing ideas out of people. Our educational system is about putting things in you, not bringing anything out of you. On that alone, the educational system is trash, but I've gone into much more depth and detail as to why it is trash in other episodes of this show. If you would like to hear that, I will refer you to episode number 199, The Scam That Is the American Educational System. And I may do some updated, no, actually, let me give you that episode. Episode number 2464 and 2465, The Garbage You Must Unlearn from School, where I laid that out as well. I laid out why that is trash. Episode number 634, What School Does Not Teach, But You Should Know. And listen, I'm not necessarily trashing all of school, but I do trash the system, educational system. I do trash that. Episode number 1746, The Little Known Ways the School Sets You Up for Failure and What to Do About It. Again, if you haven't heard those episodes, then you can hear me wax poetic and trashing the very trash-worthy American educational system. So when I say more education, in this point here, this lie about professional development, more education equals more success, I'm specifically referring to people who go get more degrees and more academic accolades going through the educational system. So when I say more education in this context, that's what I'm referring to. I'm referring to re-enrolling yourself in school to get more or higher level degrees, because that is going to help you achieve more professional success. I tell you, this is a lie. And again, I'm talking to entrepreneurs. Technically, education can simply mean developing more knowledge and skills and experiences if you look up the dictionary definition of the term, not necessarily through school. So in other words, you can get a ton of education just from listening to the Work on Your Game masterclass every single day, join my university, read my books. You can get a ton of education straight from that. But nothing that I teach here or there or in those places that I mentioned are recognized by the American educational system, nor are they recognized by any corporate entity that says, oh, you went through Dre's Work on Your Game University. Okay, well, that means you're automatically eligible to join the C-suite or middle management. That doesn't happen. All right. So when you're talking education to create more success, what most people mean by that is going back to school. What I'm submitting to you is going back to school in order to create success is a bad idea. That's a losing formula, even though many people have bought into it because a lot of you have been taught that since you were children. Listen, I was taught it since I was a child. The difference is I just took the red pill at one point and realized that I was told some bullshit. Right? And again, I was told bullshit by people who were looking out for my best interest, but them looking out for my best interest was based on their best knowledge, and their best knowledge was bullshit. That's just what it is. Again, I can know, I can love, and trust these people while still identifying that the thing they told me was based in nonsense. Now, maybe you have not gotten to that level yet. Maybe you never will. But I submit to you that what I just said is true. If I'm wrong, let me know. My email is dre@dreallday.com. So on this point, technically, again, education just means developing knowledge and skills and experiences, and it does not necessarily require you entering a school building or enrolling in a school class at all. So when I say school, I'm referring to the colloquial use of education. When I say the word education, I'm referring to how it is used colloquially. Which in the United States, when someone says get more education, what does it mean? It means go to school. Okay. I reject the concept that going to more school and getting higher degrees translates to success. I reject that concept. And again, let me remind you, I am not talking to academics. I'm not talking to corporate ladder climbers. I'm talking to entrepreneurs. Okay. Now, whether you are an academic right now and you're climbing the corporate ladder right now, but you have some entrepreneurial seeds in your head, I'm talking to you too. So I mean people who have entrepreneur in your head, even if you are not doing it in action right now in your life. Okay. Some of you listening to this have direct experience in the very truth that I have just expressed. You went and got another degree. You got more academic accolades, all in the pursuit of career success, because this is what you were told. And again, I know a lot of people and have talked to a lot of people and have coached people who were in these positions. They had a job and they were doing some entrepreneurial stuff, maybe on the side, and they were trying to decide which one they want to go for. And I've had people directly say to me, I am going back to school so that I can get a higher level degree or an additional degree, because when I get this degree, then I'll be eligible to make more money at my job, and I want to stay in my career and just move up in my career. I've had people directly say that to me. Some of them are listening to this right now. And I've had people do this and follow this path in the pursuit of career success, and they ended up not getting what they thought they were going to get, to their personal chagrin, because for whatever reason, somebody got moved up ahead of them. Maybe the structure got changed. Maybe that degree just stopped being worth anything. Maybe the company they were working for went out of business. Maybe, again, somebody else got moved up in front of them because they were of the right identity or in the right situation, whatever it happened to be. Maybe you just got crossed with the wrong boss and they shit canned you down to the bottom of the totem pole again. And what happens when people face these situations, they realize how much time they have put into going after something ended up not being what they thought it was going to be. And it either calls them to quit on their path to success or to exit that particular path and to get what you believe you're worth through a different process. All right, this is how many people end up working with us even more closely in our university, because they have tried to climb the ladder. It didn't do what they thought climbing the ladder was going to do. And they said, all right, F this, let me go and work on something I actually have control over, put myself at the top of the org chart from day one, and let's go from there. That's how people end up in Work on Your Game University, working with us in even more depth. Maybe I'm talking to you right now, and you should be going to workonyourgameuniversity.com while you're listening to me talk. So this is one of the reasons why I see many former ladder climbers exiting the game and instead choosing to become entrepreneurs where there's no ladder. Now, I will add the caveat that is also true to some people go and get more education, and it does actually help them move forward. Okay, let me not mislead you to believe that climbing a ladder means there's no chance that it's going to help you, or not climbing a ladder, but climbing an academic ladder won't help you climb the career ladder. It can, depending on what kind of career you're trying to get and depending on what you're trying to do, that it can help you move up to higher levels. As I said, this show is not targeted towards those people. But my mother, for example, is one of those people. She was in college when she had both of her children in her early 20s. And then by the time I was in my early 20s, my mom went back to school to finish her college degree that she didn't finish when she had kids. She went and got her degree. I believe she has a master's degree. And she was then able to get into a career in education, which she really wanted to do. And she became a principal or assistant principal or whatever they call it. She is to this very day. I think she's about to retire, but she's at that level. She became a principal in the education, the K through 12 educational system. That's what she wanted to do. That's the ladder that she wanted to climb. And she was able to get to that level because she got the additional degree. I think you have to have a certain degree in order to even be eligible to be like a principal in a high school or something like that. I think you do. And I have another friend, one of my best friends from college. She is a principal at a school, I believe a high school, to this very day. At least the last I checked that she was. I haven't talked to her in a while. No, she even wants to talk to me because she's probably seen me trashing the educational system on social media. So she might not want to speak to me. But anyway, it's still true. And I believe she has a master's degree. I'm not sure if she does, but I think in the education, in academia, you have to have a certain degree in order to be eligible to get a certain job. Now, why the hell does that even make sense? Why do you have to have a degree in order to get a job? Don't you have to perform at the job to get a job? Again, this is why I don't even like the system. This is why I checked out of the system completely, because I don't even like the process. But anyway, if you want to play in that process, you have every right to. I'm just telling you that what I'm talking about here today and every day on this show ain't targeted towards those people. My show is targeted towards the people who want to get out of that and they want to get in their own game. Moving on to point number 3. The topic here today, again, we are in our part 1 of what's going to be a 5-part series on the biggest lies you've been told when it comes to professional development. Number 3, you need to be an expert before you start. It's impossible to be an expert before you start. So this one is definitely a lie. It's an oxymoron. You can't be an expert before you start doing something. So there's a lie that many people tell themselves as an excuse to not get started and to continue doing nothing. And it's a perpetual lie. And it's a perpetual excuse because you can never become an expert at something if you have not started doing the thing. So there's no way you can ever resolve this issue. It's an excuse people use, or they allow others to tell them, to discourage themselves or to get discouraged from starting or taking a chance in what is essentially betting on yourself. When you become an entrepreneur, you are placing a bet on yourself because you are taking a financial risk. Whether you are putting money up, that's a financial risk, or you are walking away from money that is quote unquote guaranteed, i.e. a biweekly paycheck, in order to go do your thing. That's a financial risk. And many people don't want to take that risk, so they come up with logical, rational lies, also known as rationalizing, rational lies, to basically make themselves feel okay with not taking the risk. Well, let me just stay in the safe space that I'm in, my comfort zone, because I don't want to take this risk. Okay, that's fine. You're still taking the risk. You just don't realize you're taking a risk. Anything you do in life, you're taking a risk, by the way. You might not realize what the risk is. That does not mean that the risk does not exist. See, an expert, ladies and gentlemen, is a person who has basically seen and done everything that could possibly be seen and done in the space. That's an expert. And then, again, you can't be an expert in the space without getting into the space. So it takes a good amount of time and experience to become an expert. Therefore, it is impossible for you to achieve expertise without starting, because starting requires time and experience, and that's where the expertise comes from. If you want to be an expert, folks, give yourself permission to first be an amateur. If you want to be an expert, give yourself permission to first be an amateur. Get started, scuff your knees, scrape your elbows, take your losses as lessons, and learn along the way. You are better off starting now and figuring things out as you go, rather than waiting until you have figured everything out before you begin. It is impossible to figure everything out before you begin. So the next time you tell yourself that that's what you're going to do, you are basically setting yourself up for failure, or you're giving yourself a convenient excuse. And I think most of you who are listening to this, you are smart enough to know exactly what you're doing. So just stop lying to yourself. Again, one of the 12 work on your game commandments is self-honesty. Just be honest about the fact that maybe you don't want to take the risk. Maybe you're comfortable where you are. And so instead of telling yourself the bullshit, the lie that you know is not true, which causes you to have less confidence in yourself because you know you're lying, just tell yourself the truth. And just say, you know what, I'm not comfortable taking that risk. So you know what, I'm going to stay here because this is what's comfortable for me. That's completely fine if that's what it is. Just don't lie. Don't bullshit yourself. Because every time you lie to yourself, folks, it doesn't do anything to me or anybody else out there. Every time you lie to yourself, you crumble your foundation of confidence, because confidence is about your belief in yourself. And every time you lie to yourself, you believe yourself a little bit less because you just told yourself a fucking lie and you know you're lying. So just stop lying to yourself and tell yourself the truth about whatever the situation is. You can choose whatever path you want. I told you who I'm talking to when I'm making this material, and I ain't lying. All right, so if this is the path you want to go on, I'm telling you what goes on in this area, and I will help you there. That's the reason why we have the university. But if you don't want to take this path, that's completely fine. Just understand that the material that I make here is not targeted specifically to you. Doesn't mean you can't listen. But you just gonna need to know who I'm talking to. So if something seems to go past you or over your head or underneath you or around you, there's a reason for that, because you've chosen a path. Let's recap today's class. This is part 1 of our what's going to be a 5-part series. The biggest lies in professional and career development. Again, it's going to be a 5-part series. Point number 1, climbing a ladder is the only path to success. This is absolutely false. It depends on what success you have chosen. If you're working in a bureaucracy, government, corporate, academia, then you have to climb the ladder if you want to be successful. Success meaning higher level, higher prestige, more money, yes. But if you want to get into the game that I'm in, the entrepreneurship game, ain't no ladders. All right, as soon as you walk in, you're number 1. All right, that's how it works. Point number 2, more education equals more success. Now, again, I have trashed the educational system, and I will, luckily, not luckily, but happily, trash the educational system even more in the future as I think of more ways and more reasons to trash them. Getting more education, as what we mean it colloquially in the United States, more education means going to school. That only works if you're in one of those bureaucracies. If you're not planning to build your career in that bureaucracy, do not go back to school looking to get more what you consider to be knowledge. It's not knowledge, it's indoctrination. And if you want to be indoctrinated, go to school. If you want to get actual knowledge and real tangible stuff that you can use in real life, Join Work on Your Game University. I'll tell you how in a second. Number 3, you need to be an expert before you start. This is oxymoronic and impossible. You can't be an expert until you actually get experience. To become an expert in anything, you need time and experience, which means you must start and do stuff. It means you got to lose, you got to fail, you got to mess up, you got to learn things, you got to not know stuff and then close that knowledge gap. All that happens through time and experience. Therefore, you cannot be an expert before starting something that, again, makes no sense, is impossible. But there are people who actually believe that. So I had to put it in here. All that said, folks, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You're serious about getting off the ladder. You don't want to be in the bureaucracy anymore. You don't like pretending to like people that you don't like. And you don't like being in a position where you feel like you have earned an advancement, but you're not getting it because somebody else has their thumb on the scale and you don't control it. And you're frustrated with that and you're ready to actually finally do something about it. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. I think you have heard enough in this episode and other episodes that I know exactly where you're at. I know exactly where you're coming from. And I don't know exactly where you want to go. We'll talk about that. And I will work you through this because guess what? I've worked with other people who've been in that exact situation. I know it very well because I've heard it directly from their mouths. So that's why I'm talking like I've almost been there myself. I haven't, but I know because I've heard it. So anyway, workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where we can get started and you can get off that ladder that ain't letting you climb up anyway. Tomorrow, part 2 of the series. Work on your game. Dre, all